Hi, welcome to the Mettā Interview, generous conversations with brilliant humans. I'm Anne V Mühlethaler, and I'm delighted to share today my conversation with Francesca Hogi. I first encountered Francesca at TED in Vancouver in 2023, where she delivered a striking 3-minute talk on dismantling the princess industrial complex. I know, right? Brief as it was, her message, her talk left an echo that resonated with me long after she left that famous red circle on the stage. And perhaps because, like Francesca, I grew up a deeply romantic child, something in her words struck a chord that continued to reverberate. Now, Franny, as she's known to her friends, or Dear Franny to her podcast listeners and Instagram followers, Francesca is a love educator and coach on a mission to help people create the relationships in lives that they truly want. We were connected in person in Paris, of all places, last year. And again, when I interviewed her for Out of the Clouds, following the publication of her book, How to Find True Love. When I began developing the program for Le Trente, I knew I wanted Francesca on board. I sensed there were fascinating depths to explore, and I was right. The question alive for her at the moment feels both incredibly powerful and universal. In today's conversation, we journey through her story from romantic childhood dreams and beach Sundays with ice cream, through a decade as a lawyer knowing it wasn't her path, to finding her true calling and helping others with love. We explore what she means when she asks, what is your assignment right now? And if not now, when? As she prepared for her second TED Talk on unlocking your flirting superpowers, we recorded this conversation about possibility, purpose, and the urgency of stepping into our missions, both personal and collective, in these troubled or uncertain times. I hope this conversation resonates as deeply with you as it did with me. Let's dive in. Francesca, I'm so happy to see you. Welcome to the Mettā Interview.
Thank you, Anne. Always great to see you, and thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure, and it's lovely to reconnect once more. So you've been on Out of the Clouds, and as you know, I like to do something a little bit different here with the Mettā Interview. And I like to start the conversation by asking you, what is one thing that's exciting you at the moment, or anything that's, let's say, had you very curious or engaged in the last few days?
Yeah. Well, yesterday was my birthday, my 51st birthday. Every year I call it birthday clarity, because I always have a lot of insights that start percolating right before my birthday. And this year, I've really been thinking a lot about possibility and just really actually pushing myself to envision things working out better. If we're going to imagine something that we're about to do, like, why not just imagine the best possible outcome of everything? So I basically am treating this next year, which I decided yesterday on my birthday, as an experiment in just possibility. Like, I'm going to really be practiced about only giving my energy and my thoughts to what I want to see, and not like, okay, well, what's the best that I can hope for in this situation? So that's what I've been thinking a lot about.
That sounds gorgeous. When did you first come across this idea, this notion of possibility? I'm very curious and excited about this now.
Well, years ago, I read a book called Infinite Possibilities by Mike Dooley. And this is basically what it's about. It's about using our energy and our mental energy, our spiritual energy, to really imagine really great outcomes. And I think that, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Anne, and I certainly can, that there's just been times in your life where you just knew in your heart and your spirit that things were going to be fine. Even if, or maybe more than fine, right? Like, you knew things were going to work out, even if there was maybe a lot of, quote, evidence to the contrary. Like you could have gone into worry, but you were just operating from a place of, no, actually, I know everything's going to be okay. And I think that we all have those moments of grace where we are really just in that place and we can just operate from there. And it's like a flow state, right? When you're moving through and you're just like, I know everything's going to be okay. It's very easy to fall back into our old habits, and to fall into the worrying mind and the anxiety of like, what's going to happen. And I don't know, it's just a function of being in America at the end of democracy. Maybe it's, it's like we have to start using our power individually and collectively to imagine what we want, because we're very clear what we don't want. But what is it that we want, and how can we really commit ourselves to that vision? And that's really what I've been thinking a lot about.
I'm so glad you said that. First of all, I know I'm calling it something different, and I don't even know that I have many words for it, but I've been practicing something similar, is finding certainty and faith and moving forward with both the goal in mind, but also this sense of deep belief, right? The other day I was guiding a group through what I like to call an intention hour, which I offer once a month, which is it's a short reflection format with a bunch of questions to help people tap into their deep intention. But one of the things I realized, and that I think what you said makes so much sense, is so important, that I journaled myself during the hours. So I gave the participant the prompts and I jotted a few things down for myself. And in the middle of the process, I realized that I wasn't clear about the outcome that I was looking for. And so I think that what you speak of about having a clear vision of what it is that you want, like what's the ideal outcome, I know this, but I realize that oftentimes even I can be unclear unless, I sit my bum down and ask myself the question until we have clarity. It's very hard to get to what we want. Oh, thanks. Thanks for talking about that.
It really can
You're
be.
reminding me that I didn't resolve that.
Yeah. Well, I love that intention hour. I'm like, I might borrow that one. That's a great idea. But yeah, I think it's we take for granted that we know what we want, but if once you actually do start sitting down and thinking about it and writing it out, you can realize, oh wait, I'm pretty confused. And I actually think I talk about this a little bit in my book in terms of the search for romantic love, but it applies to everything, I believe, which is how we can really split our energy, right? So there's part of you that's like, this is the outcome that I want. And then there's part of you that's like not clear, or maybe you have beliefs that you can't have that outcome. And so your energy it's being split between thoughts and feelings that affirm what you want, and then thoughts and feelings that affirm what you don't want. And so you're kind of getting all of these mixed results in part because we're not really clear. But I think that one thing that's really helpful that I always encourage people to do is to really reflect on those times in life where you did have absolute clarity and you had clarity of that vision, and it was something that you were able to really hold to in the face of a journey and ups and downs and obstacles. And I know we've all done that. And so it's like, how do you tap into that and then bring it forward and continue to do it in an intentional way? And that's what I'm focused on right now.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I was wondering if you'd be so kind to introduce yourself to our audience, but in your own words. How would you like to describe who you are?
I am someone who helps people with love. So I consider myself to be a love educator and a coach, and I do lots of different things. But for me, everything is under the umbrella of empowering people, helping to empower people to really have the lives that they want and the relationships that they want. So that's my mission, and that takes lots of different forms. And I've done lots of different things in my lifetime and in my career, but love is really my calling.
Can I just say, that's the best answer ever. Love is my calling. How great is that?
Oh, thank you. I mean, I think it's all of our calling, but
I think so too. You've just realized that this was yours in a professional manner, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
That's beautiful. Now, in this first part of the interview, I would love to ask you several questions to help sort of draw out stories to help people understand more of who you are. And one of the things I love to ask is, what is a childhood memory that still makes you smile or makes you giggle? Anything come to mind that you want to share?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, the first thing that came to mind, one of my favorite things to reflect on in my childhood is summertime Sundays. Because as a family, we used to go to church in the morning on Sunday. But then after church, we would go to the beach, and in the summertime, obviously, we would go to the beach, or we would take long drives, and my whole family, there was 5 of us growing up, we all loved ice cream. And so everything was like building up to the moment where we would go get ice cream.
I see
and
you.
As a kid, it was just like the best.
Hats off to your family and to you guys. We have values in common. Yeah. That's awesome.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Such good memories of just like, so I grew up in New York, and there's this island. I don't know if you actually are familiar. Have you ever heard of City Island?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay. So City Island is this tiny little island that's off of the Bronx. There's one road that takes you there. It's just like one main street. And it's really charming. You go there and you're like, I'm in New York, I'm in the Bronx. And at the very end of the island, there are 2 basically rival seafood restaurants. One is called Sammy's and one is called Johnny's. And it's like a thing of like, do you go to Sammy's or do you go to Johnny's? Nobody goes to both. You have to choose one. And we were a Johnny's family. And so we would go to Johnny's and we would get seafood. And then there was this awesome ice cream parlor on City Island called Hippies. And it was this old-fashioned ice cream parlor. And they would have these big sundaes and these big glass bowls. And yeah, that's what we used to do. And I used to... Yeah, see, I'm still smiling. And now I want a banana split.
That's brilliant. It's crazy because I feel like I'm there. I hope I get to visit. Do they still, I hope that Sammy's and Johnny's is still in business.
Yes, they are still in business, still going strong. Rivalry still going strong.
Oh, yay.
Unfortunately, Hippies is no longer there, but that's okay.
Oh, well. That's got me thinking about seafood and Sundays and beach and, oh, God. Anyways. Thank you for this sort of mini time travel moment. Now, as you already know, thank you. As you already know, part of what I aim to do with the Mettā interviews also to shine a light on the multiple faceted nature of ourself. And so I was wondering, what do you think are 1 or 2 early experiences that may have put you on the path that you are now on today?
Oh, gosh. I feel like there's a lot because, my whole life, as long as I can remember, I was a dreamer. I think all kids are, but I was really like, I dreamt of having romance, and I was a very romantic child, right? Like I started, reading romance novels when I was way too young. And I just remember reading these tales of love affairs and international adventures and all of this. And I was just like, that sounds good. I want to do that. Yes. Can't wait, So I think that growing up, I was never someone who knew what I wanted to be when I grew up, right? Like I hated when adults would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, I just want to be happy. I didn't ever have a profession that I was like, yes, I see myself as that, which actually used to cause me a ton of anxiety well into my adulthood, frankly.
Sure.
Because as you know, Anne, I was an attorney. I was a lawyer in my previous career. And, but anyway, long before that, so I had this vision of the kind of life that I wanted to have, but love and relationships was a really, really big part of it. But it was never, interestingly, like, I want to like get married and have a fairy tale wedding. Like, it wasn't that. So it was like, I want to have lots of different relationships and I want to have lots of different adventures. And so there was something in me that always wanted to really explore love and relationship and connection. I never wanted to just like have it be, okay, let me just meet someone as soon as possible and settle down. I never wanted that. I wanted to like, let's see what this is all about. So I think that started, very early with the romance novels and movies. I always loved movies ever since I was a little kid. That was another thing that my family and I used to do, was go to the movies a lot together as a family. Actually, this is a bit of an aside, but I realized recently that I can remember many, many, many movies that I went to see as a kid. I can remember the theater I saw it in. Like, I can remember, and it's not, we used to go to the movies all the time. This is like a lot of movies. It's not like, I remember the one time we went to the movies, and I was like,
Sure.
It's a lot of movies. And I'm like, wow, movies have really made a very deep impression on me. So movies and love stories have been a big part of my life and something that's always really captured my imagination.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I'd love to ask if you could describe your professional journey as a type of journey. You could think of it like in many different ways, as a road trip, a climb, I don't know, a plane journey, a dance. What do you think it would be? How would you describe it?
That is such an interesting question, Anne. I feel like it was a long, meandering road trip. So there was definitely, it was a car. It was not a plane. That would have been way too fast. A very long, meandering road trip with a lot of detours, with a lot of like, oh, well, what's this? Let's go check this out. And then someone saying, hey, have you ever heard about this? You should go see that. And I'm like, sure. So I feel that as I mentioned, I never had a very clear idea of what I wanted to do career-wise growing up. And so as an adult, really went into it as like, okay, let's try this, let's try that. There was a lot of exploration and also a lot of years that I spent doing things that, and I this is referring to being a lawyer, I practiced law for over 10 years. And I knew year one, that's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I still did it for 10 years.
Dude, that's tough. That has to be really tough.
It was tough, but I will say, don't feel too sorry for me because...
No. No. I don't mean sorry, but that's still, for you, for your inner life, that's tough. I'm sure externally there were lots of wonderful things and that was not a terrible life, essentially.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Internally, it was tough. But what I learned on that long journey, on that road was, even though I was like, okay, this isn't the road that I want to stay on. I was able to take different experiences and skills, and it did teach me a lot about myself. And so there were things that I discovered practicing law that were really meaningful to me. I realized that I actually love helping people. I love having a client who has a problem, and then I'm able to solve that problem. And so I took that as a clue where I said, okay, well, I like helping people solve problems. I just didn't want those problems for the rest of my life to be, how does this corporation make more money out of this transaction kind of problems. I was like, I mean, no, listen, I'm not even judging it. It's just in terms of what I felt like I was on this planet to do. It didn't feel like it was that.
Sure.
So there were things along the journey that I was able to take with me that provided clues that it was like, okay, well, this isn't the road, but I do like helping people. So let me go more down the helping people road and then see, okay, well, actually, I want to help people with something that's personal to them. And then it was like, okay, well, what's more personal than love and relationships? You know, so it was all like a, meandering, but I got there in the end.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. You know, it's kind of wonderful because my next question was going to be asking you, you know, what's the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome in your career? And I wonder if that's what it is.
I think probably the biggest challenge I had to overcome was pivoting from being a lawyer to being a matchmaker.
Yes.
And it wasn't that I ran into massive obstacles, but people were like, really? Like I have a lot of wonderful supportive people in my life, but the responses pretty much for the most part ranged from, well, I know you're going to be successful at whatever you do, so go for it. To, are you sure you want to do this after all of this time that you spent like getting this degree and practicing, and like, you sure you want to leave all? So I think there were a lot of people in my life who were trying to be supportive, but I could tell that they really thought I was, you know, running off to join the circus.
Yeah.
And so there was that part was just, you know, mentally, actually, this goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. I had to really ground myself in just knowing, I know this seems like a very random thing to do for your career, but I just had this conviction. I was like, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. And so I think just making that pivot and then storytelling that pivot, you know, quote, rebranding myself. I mean, I didn't really use that term 12 years ago.
Of course.
But wow. that was the biggest challenge. I'm sure you can relate to that. And
yeah,
I know many of your listeners can relate to the challenge of making a very sharp career pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bold, it's daring. And I also love that you link that to possibility, right? To that sense of needing to ground in thinking that the best is yet to come and that you can put your faith and trust in that. How lovely. Yeah. That's a very nice circle we've already drawn in this interview. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'd love to ask you something a little bit offbeat now. What would be a metaphor that captures how you're moving through the world right now? Because you're still making bold moves. You haven't left that behind. Just want to say for people who don't know this.
Thank you, Anne. I am moving through the world. Okay. Well, this is a great question. You have really good questions. I am moving through the world as if though I have a magic wand.
Oh, look at you. I'm glad I asked. Go on, please.
So I have this belief that the things that we most are called to experience, there's lots of things that we might be like, oh, going back to that road trip, it's like, oh, sure, that's a cute little scenic detour, right? I'll go look at that view. But, you know, you're kind of like, oh, I'll do it. But you're not like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to like see this view. I can't wait to explore this road or see, you know, there's the difference. And I think in life we can get caught, and I certainly have, in a lot of like, oh, sure, that's cute. I'll try that. I'll go there. But going back to this like idea of like infinite possibilities and this new experiment that I'm doing, I really believe that the things that we're really called to do, when you're like, no, I really want to explore this. I really want to explore this road. I really want to climb this mountain. I really want to have this love. I really want to have this impact. Like the things that we're really called to do, I believe that we are called to do them because we are meant to do them.
Yeah.
Right? And taking that even further, it's like, okay, if you're meant to do it, then there is And there is a path for you to do that. Like, I do not believe that we have a calling in our hearts that we do not have the means to fulfill. And I don't mean like a longing, right? You lose, I've lost people that I love very much. I'm not saying like, oh, I can bring those people back. I'm not talking about that, right? But I'm talking about the things that I'm like, no, for me in my life, I feel called to do something. I really believe that for all of us, there's a reason and it's available to us. Now, how we get there, that's the journey, right? But now that I'm stepping into this place of more possibility, I just don't want to operate from any sense of doubt, because what is meant to, when I say a magic wand, I don't mean that I literally think I'm going to get every single thing that I want, right? Because I
That's
don't
not
think
how I
that
took it, but thank you for explaining.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't think that that's how, like, we're not meant to get every single thing that we want when we want it, right? Like, it's not that. However, the vision of the magic wand, I mean, your question inspired that answer. I wasn't going around saying that before.
Sure,
so you know.
Sure. I feel it.
You did that, Anne.
I take responsibility. Absolutely.
Is like, if I did, going back to what you were saying, if I did have a magic wand, right? And I could have any outcome that I want from this situation.
Yeah.
What would it be? I mean, here, I'll even go out on a limb, because this is a real time thing that's happening. So next week, in 6 days, I'm giving my second TED Talk. And
yes, of course, because it's TED Next.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's called How to Unlock Your Flirting Superpowers. And I have just decided that this talk is going to be a hit. Like, I don't know all the things that are going to happen. That's not my department, but I'm literally envisioning that when I say thank you, the audience is like, woo, like the audience is cheering. I'm imagining myself, I'm on stage and I'm looking at people, and people are engaged and they're excited and they're smiling and they're laughing. And like, I'm so convinced that this is the outcome. So I'm going on a limb, out on a limb here.
Sure.
So we'll see how this first magic wand experiment of my 51st year goes. But but yeah, it's like, why not? Why not? I'm going to do it anyway.
Sure.
So why not just decide that I'm going to enjoy doing it, that I'm going to feel great doing it, that my intention for it to be for it to land really well with people, that's meaningful, and that's what's going to happen. So yeah, that's my.
I love it. This is really exciting, and thank you for sharing that. That's personal and juicy and full of energy, and I definitely am sending you all of my boost from my end in Geneva. I'm sure it's going to be a success.
Thank you. And everyone who's listening to this could be like, okay, let's look up this talk and see if she did it.
I have no doubt that you're going to deliver. I have no doubt.
Thank you.
I'm operating on behalf of you with a lot of certainty as well.
Oh, thank you.
But it's
Wait,
funny.
I'm sorry, Anne, what's your answer to that question? I'm so curious. What's the metaphor
if I was
for
to
you?
answer, it's funny because there wasn't a word that came through. There's an image that came through, and it's a really odd one. I could see like a beautiful, rather still expanse of water, like a deep, like nice grey blue, sort of very still. And I am some kind of fish, and I'm just sliding. I'm gliding through. I don't know what it means.
Ooh.
It's funny sometimes when you hear something and the answer is not words, it's more. So, I don't know. I can't really tell you what kind of fish, but it's, I'm sliding through like this. Or gliding. I'm going
beautiful.
places.
You are going places with ease.
But, I mean, I'm going
grace.
somewhere. Yeah, it felt very, also the image of the water itself was beautiful, and I don't know, it had, it's that kind of bluey gray, I don't know, funny.
That is funny. I love that. And also it reminds me, because this is another thing that I've not super recently, but I would say in the last year that I've come to realize is that I'll speak for myself. I'm so used to thinking, trying to, figure everything out in my mind. I always want clarity. I want to get answers. And I realized that a lot of the answers they're not words. They actually are images and they are feelings. And that's actually pretty cool. And I actually find I like it better than just thinking everything, like thinking. I love that image of you in the beautiful water, this calm, still blue-gray water. And there you are just gliding through it all. Like, oh, that's cool. Cinematic.
Thank you so much for saying that. Yes, it is a bit cinematic, even in the I wish I could plug you in so you could see the image in my mind. I found the same thing to be true. And I have to say, I'm seeing a couple of different therapists to support me in my journey, whether, at any point personal, entrepreneurial. And I did do some work with 2 counselors that specialize in somatic experiencing, which is the work of a Dr. Peter Levine. And I have to say, it's kind of amazing and trippy. And I'm sure that I could unpack that image if I got myself into a session in the coming days. Maybe this is a sign that I need to.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
That's very cool. Yeah.
But going back to how you answered the question and how you described the, linking back to possibility in the sense that there are things that we're meant to fulfill. I feel like this is gently bringing us to the core question that we explored and chose together for today's interview. So the question that we identified in our earlier conversation is, what is your assignment right now? And if not now, when? Do you want to tell me more about this question and why it's so alive for you?
Yes. So as a coach, I have come to be very, very focused with my clients. I'm really understanding, like, what is the actual assignment at hand? So, for instance, if someone comes to me and they haven't dated in many years, and maybe that's just not something that they prioritize, and now they're like, okay, I'm ready to date, and I really want to meet someone and fall in love, and I'm like, okay, awesome, but also let's think about on the path to you falling in love. What's the immediate assignment? Because sometimes the immediate assignment is I actually need to start carving out time and space in my life for myself, so I actually have the bandwidth to let another person in, because I've been so focused on, maybe your career or something else that was going on, and there was no space for that. So if you're just trying to jump ahead to like, let me just meet people, but where in your life is there the space to hold that and to cultivate a relationship and to allow someone else in? So that's just one small example. Another example, going back to flirting, your assignment might be you need to get more comfortable receiving romantic attention, or you need to get more comfortable allowing yourself to really be seen for who you are and not show up in a way that you think other people, you think that's going to make you lovable, because even if you, quote, succeed, you're not going to choose the right partner because that person doesn't even know who you really are, right? So I think of assignments as, what is it that I actually need to do? I look at things as, there's our department, that's what we do. And then there's, the universe's department. And those are all the many, many factors that we cannot control, right? And so our assignment is really a way of understanding, like, okay, on my path to what it is that I want to achieve, this is what I need to do. Just like you said, you realize you're like, okay, I need support on this path, right? So you're working with these therapists, and I've worked with many coaches and all these, it's like understanding what it is that you need to get you there. And the reason that I say, if not now, then when, is because this is our life. And this is the moment that we're in, and tomorrow is not promised to us. And the way everyone can feel that things in the world are accelerating so quickly, things are changing so dramatically in so many parts of life. And I think that we're kind of past the point for those of us who have the privilege of being able to like have the bandwidth to think about, well, what do I really want? You know, like not everybody even has that bandwidth and that privilege. So I want to acknowledge that. But
Sure.
if someone is listening to this, then they have the privilege to think about themselves and life and ideas, which is a beautiful thing. And I think that those of us who can, we really need to step up for ourselves and for those who can't.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you see this too, but you know, something that I have seen so much as a coach is like how people are so amazing and they have so much to give and they have so much to share, but we're human and we have trauma and we have insecurities and we have all of these things that cause so much self-doubt. And I just want us to stop taking our insecurities so personally. It's like, yeah, I feel like I might not be good enough to do this.
Sure.
But here I am, and I'm going to do it anyway, because if I don't do it now, then when? And I just don't think that we never had the luxury of time, because tomorrow has never been promised, right? Yeah. And our lives have always meant to be lived. But I think that what's happening in the world now really is acutely bringing that into focus. And so I want to do, you know, what I can to empower people to say, okay, yeah, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to have all the answers. I just have to believe in myself and just step by step do what I can with a lot of self-compassion. And let's make this world a better place. But that starts with putting ourselves individually in a better place and, you know, filling up our own buckets so we can then, we can help other people. It's like, what can we give from an empty bucket? Not much. Yeah.
Thanks. I know we've talked about this before. I am touched by it. And also I love the synchronicity, because I know you love synchronicity, because
I do.
3 hours ago, I was on the phone call to a new client who told me about her inner critic. And I said, because it was a very short call, and I said, you can thank your inner critic and say, I know that you're trying to protect you, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
yeah. But I want to unpack a couple of different things you've just mentioned here. Let's go back to the question, what is my assignment? How would you invite someone who is listening to us who's not sure what their assignment is? Where would they start?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good idea to start with where you want to be and then work backwards. So when I work with clients, we set 3-month goals, 6-month goals, and 5-year goals. So 5 years is more about the vision, right? Like, what do I want my life to look like in 5 years, my career, my relationship? And you don't have to have all the answers, right? But there are things that we do know. It's like you might know in your career, for instance, well, I know that in 5 years, I want to be working for myself. And this was my answer 12 years ago. I knew that I wanted to be working for myself. I knew that I wanted to be helping people with something that was very personally important to them. So helping them to solve personal problems. I knew that I wanted to make enough money that I could have a good lifestyle and I could take care of myself and I could take care of my loved ones and I could, you know, so there's starting with those puzzle pieces. If it's a relationship, you might say, okay, I know in 5 years I want to be in a really beautiful, connected partnership. And, you know, really think about the vision of what you want to experience in that relationship. So then you can say, okay, that's the big vision. So, well, where do I want to be in 6 months? And then that makes you go more tangible, because 6 months you can actually, you know, you're like, oh, I can, I can put my hands on 6 months from now. Like, it'll be here very quickly.
Metaphorically, it's it's almost there.
You know, it's within reach, right? So if, you know, going back to the relationship example, if you haven't been on a date in 10 years and in 5 years you want to be in a really great relationship, maybe in 6 months you don't expect to be married. Maybe, right? Right?
You just had me there. I was so not there. Sure. Thank you.
You know, right?
Totally.
Like, here we are in November. If I said, okay, so by April, You want to be married? Is that the goal?
Sure.
You know, it could happen. People certainly get married in shorter time frames, but it's not really setting yourself up to win, right? So understanding, okay, well, in 6 months, I want to be dating someone. I want to feel confident within myself romantically. I want to feel like I'm on the right path. I want to, you know, maybe be dating one person who's a great partner. Be like, okay, great. So how do we close the gap between today and 6 months from now, right? Today and 3 months from now. And so maybe it's like, okay, in the next 3 months, then maybe the assignment is you need to go on a lot of dates because you want to kind of desensitize yourself and not have every date feel like so high stakes. It'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm just a person who dates. So maybe the assignment in the next 3 months is for your inner belief for what you actually want to have. You're really committing yourself to strengthening that and showing yourself the evidence that you need to believe that, oh yeah, I can handle this.
Huh. Oh, I like the words you just said, strengthening the evidence for yourself.
Yes.
So it's a way of building self-trust as much as self-trust will then breed self-confidence, right? This idea is that if you're showing to yourself that you are able to show up in the way that you want to, then you become naturally more confident.
Yes, exactly.
But so when we think about the quality and the tone of the assignment, so you'd say, dream fast forward 5 years, come back to 6 months, construct, like build the evidence for yourself. What else would you suggest to help people feel into, or what's the word I'm using?
Yeah.
To become more tangibly connected to that assignment? Because I feel like the word itself, maybe I want you to tell me about this first. How did you come to this word? Because it's unusual, it's very specific, and I like it very much.
Thank you. How did I come to this word?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even know if I remember because I've been saying it for so long. I think I do know. So, as I mentioned, I started my career as a matchmaker. And when you're a matchmaker, matchmaking tends to attract, understandably, a lot of people who they're like, oh, this is the silver bullet that I need, right? Like, I'm hopeless on my own, but now that I'm paying you as a professional, I get to have whatever I want. A lot of people think that they're outsourcing the work to you of actually making connection rather than understanding like, oh, we're helping to facilitate, but still you can only have the relationship and the depth of relationship that you have the capacity to have internally. No one can outside be like, here's the perfect person. And now, now you feel totally worthy of receiving this love. Now you have the confidence to be vulnerable and to let yourself be seen and to, all of that. So I realized as a matchmaker, and the reason that I stopped matchmaking after a couple of years was that people were not understanding that they had not every client. Sorry if any of my former matchmaking clients are listening to this. Not everyone, but many people had this attitude of, well, like, I don't have to do anything anymore. So I think I thought of this notion of an assignment as, look, there's what I'm doing as a matchmaker. There's what the universe is doing in terms of the serendipity that's going to bring you together with the right person, no matter how that happens. But then there's what you're doing, right? Which is about you doing the inner work to make sure that when somebody shows up who is a great partner for you, you can actually recognize them as such and you can actually receive that, right? Yeah. And so I think even if I didn't start using the term assignment, it became very clear to me that there was a piece of this journey that was really up to the individual person to be like, no, you do your part. I'll do my part. The universe is always doing its part. And yeah, that's how it came to be. But I think also, everything is connecting and coming full circle again. But, I was saying, about how I really believe if you have this heart-centered desire, there is a way for you to achieve it. And, I'm a manifester. I'm somebody who, talks about manifestation, thinks a lot about manifestation. And I really think that ultimately what we are all doing is that we are manifesting the version of ourselves that inevitably has what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so the path to becoming that version of yourself, those are your assignments.
You know what I find interesting about this, and I love how you described it. You're talking about manifestation. I dabble in it. Some of the people who do a lot of it, I don't like. Some of them I like. But basically, you're pointing to the fact that there are a number of things that are yours to do in order for you to get to the thing that you want.
Yes.
And then some of it, you can't do anything about.
Exactly. You can't
you
do
just
anything
have
about,
to do
yeah.
you. You just have to
Yeah.
pull yourself, focus, do your part to get to where you want to be. That
Yes.
speaks to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's also something studious about it. Sorry. So I'm a coach who gives assignments to my to my
So
clients.
do I. I call it hard work, not homework, but yes.
I didn't give it a name for mine, but yes, I'll embrace yours. This is something to add to this idea. Oftentimes, we will pay a coach or a consultant or a designer or a thing that will get the support from the right person. But there's more work for us to be done, right? To get to the place we want to be. And I see that very often, even myself as a client. That's where we slip. That's where we're like,
Yes.
oh, this feels really hard. How do you support clients in making sure that they don't lose? Because I think there must be a tension, right? In order to keep the assignment or the goal into focus.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about your meandering journey. So I'm thinking it's the same, right? In order to go to where you want, you need to keep that in tension, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that you still have that rapport, that connection to it. How do you help people keep at that? Because I think this is something every single person who is listening could benefit from.
Well, you're so right. It has to be very intentional. And this is where practices come in my personal life and also what I assign to my clients. One of the big things is journaling, because it does help to keep you focused on what you do want. So things like that, I agree with you. I certainly do not resonate with everybody who talks about manifestation, because I think a lot of it just is way too surface, and it gets into like, oh, just say an affirmation. And it's like, but are you connected to that affirmation? Are you saying it, but in your mind, you're just going bullshit? What's the connection to it? But we do have to do things to keep what we want top of mind.
Yeah.
And having some type of daily practice where you are carving out, even if it's 5 minutes, to sit in silence and visualization, meditation, journaling, probably more than 5 minutes, but still, what are you willing to do to keep that focus is really important. Accountability, especially for some of my clients who do have more difficulty staying accountable, I asked them to enlist people in their lives. I was like, okay, this is a great opportunity for you to practice vulnerability as well as accountability, because who can you reach out to and say, hey, you know what? I'm at a place in my life where I'm really prioritizing relationships and dating. Yeah. And that's kind of scary. And that feels kind of hard. And I'm working with a coach, and maybe could you support me in this, right? Or I'm letting you know because I want the people in my life who I care about to know that I'm embarking on this journey. And people get excited when you're vulnerable with them in that way. And then they're like, oh my God, how can I support? How can I help? So it is an individual thing, but those are some practices. But then underneath all of that, we have to get to a place where we believe that we deserve to have what we want. And everyone's like, oh yeah, of course I deserve it. No. We have to be humble, and we have to be curious, and we have to be very honest with ourselves about what are the things that I'm doing that might be actually working against what I want. So it's not just about what do I add on, what do I do differently? It's about what do I stop doing? What am I doing right now that might actually be holding me back. So maybe that's the assignment, is like, oh, let me just do an audit. What am I spending my time doing? What am I giving my energy and my focus to? How much time am I spending doom scrolling on social media? And am I willing to really, literally, because that's a big part of what's sucking a lot of people's energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is the distraction of these devices and all these platforms that are engineered to suck all of our attention and our energy. And there are a lot of people who feel like they don't have any time, but if you actually looked at your usage time on, different platforms, it'd be like, I spend how many hours a day on fill in the blank? So you really have to be committed to yourself and say, yeah, I actually, even though it's hard, even though I don't know every step, I actually believe that I deserve to achieve this goal. And even if there's a part of me that maybe doesn't fully believe it, I'm ready to believe it, right? So, and this is why working with a coach is so good, because you have a thought partner to help you see some of these ways in which there is an opportunity for more to come in for your life. And sometimes it's doing things new, and sometimes it's actually just stopping doing things that you're already doing.
Yeah, removing the obstacles on the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's such a great point. Now, first of all, I should say, when you talk about that, you are making me want to hire you as a coach, so thanks. I'm just thinking, all right, sold. There's a part of me that wants to come back to something you touched on earlier, though, because it feels still like it's pulsating in the back of my mind. You mentioned how this connection to our assignment is so important for right now. Should we talk about this for a couple of minutes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you feel like this need for focus on what is our assignment is so important in this time?
Because there is so much to overwhelm us. And I think there's a sense of powerlessness that most of us have, which in some ways, yeah, we are powerless in terms of I don't actually have a magic wand, which as much as I would love one, it's probably a good thing. No one should have one.
Sure.
No one could actually be trusted with it. But and tell me if you agree. And again, this is also a very American perspective. Everyone is stressed out. Everyone is overwhelmed. Everyone is like, what is happening to this country? What is happening to this world? Is AI going to take over everything? There's so much anxiety that we have, understandably. And I just think that if we take a step back and we look objectively at the situation, those of us who care about the world being a more fair, a more just place where everyone gets to thrive and everyone gets their needs met and everyone has the privilege of thinking about, okay, well, what do I really want, right?
Sure.
And then actually if we believe that, which I know that you do, and I imagine that your listeners do because they listen to you, then we got to do it. We got to do it and we got to do it now. And no one is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves, and we have to step up as leaders to help those who can't do, because everybody has a thing that they can do and a thing that they can't do, right? Just
Sure.
That's why we seek support from some people, because you're better at this than I do. You have more answers on this subject than I do. So
Sure.
how all of us, whatever that is, I don't care if you're an artist, if you're an accountant, if you are an operations person, it doesn't matter what it is that you do. Whatever you do, if you are bringing your heart and your intention to it, it's powerful and it makes a difference and it matters. And it's not easy, but I really feel that we are being called to step it up. Okay, how can I do more? How can I have more impact? How can I help more people? How can I get more clear in my messaging so people don't have to really wonder and ponder, but actually be okay, I get it. That's something I can actionably and tangibly hold on to. I think this is our time. I think that we've been in training for a really long time. We've been developing these tools. You've been swimming through that, that deep body of water. And I've been driving in this car going on all sorts of roads. And we've had all these experiences. And so how do we take all of that now and combine that with our intention for the world that we want to see and do our part, I just think that's what I would love for people who care about the world to ask themselves right now. And it could be, okay, I need to start talking to my neighbors and actually invest in human connection every day. It doesn't mean that you're having to go out and meet 100 new people, but maybe the assignment is I'm just going to start with saying hi to my neighbors. Or I've lived in this building, or I lived in this house for 2 years, and I don't even know the people who live across the street from me. Maybe that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually start where I am and start, investing in this community that I'm a part of and treating it as a community. Yeah. For instance.
It's a beautiful and heart-opening suggestion. And as you're saying this, my suggestion for anyone who's like, but it's hard, I'm like, get a dog or borrow someone's dog. You will meet everyone in your neighborhood. Or if you're in Geneva, borrow mine. He'll say hi to everybody. You will have plenty of connection, let me tell you.
Absolutely. I probably petted 3 dogs yesterday alone. That's pretty common for me. I'm like, hi, can I pet your dog?
That's awesome. But I think you're right. It's interesting because I feel in this moment in my own personal life, this same sense of calling as you're describing, this sense of now is not a time to be small or not to be, but to play small. Now is a time to invest in being however generous one can be in connection, in support, in lending our voices or raising our voices so that we can support each other in whatever means, through whatever means we have. As you mentioned, everybody's got something different. And I wanted to share with our listeners that you and I have learned that we have one other thing in common, which perhaps also colors our perspective and has opened our hearts in a different way. But our dads were born in the same year, right? 1925, yes. Am I correct?
1926 for mine. Yeah.
26.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, a baby.
Yes. But I feel like it's really transformed my perspective on many things because effectively there was a generational gap. And so when people talk about the Second World War and it feels so far for them, for me, my dad was alive in the Second World War. Yeah. And God knows, he saw much more than just that war. And I met people who survived the camps, and his ex-wife flew from Russia to France to Switzerland under the guise of her teenage best friend's identity to make it across the border from France into Switzerland. So I guess that perhaps more than other people, and that's not to say that not everybody's concerned as to the state of the world, but I feel like, and I'm getting shivers when I say it, I feel like I sense the fact that we're on the precipice, right? That democracy is being pushed around and is being taken for granted. And I have this deep sense that I need to do something about it, which feels ridiculous because it's so big. And in essence, daring to speak about it with you and talking about our assignment and saying, how can we focus in being our best selves, right, in whatever way that makes sense to each of us, is so incredibly important because it could be one of the ways that we make sure that we don't have to live through a total collapse and have to rebuild it all, although it may have to happen.
I do think that unfortunately does have to happen. Well, I say unfortunately, but I feel it's so complicated. Yes, my dad actually was in World War II. He served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. And it also, America is so complicated. It's so hard to even describe because I have that experience with my dad. Then I have my mom who is Black, like I am. And, you know, my mom was born in Alabama in 1943. It was segregated. When she left Alabama in 1962, she moved to New York. It was still segregated. This is my mom, you know, like this is, and I think especially because so many people these days are so ahistorical that I'm like, I can't be because of just my actual family experience and lived experience, that I'm like, you all want to whitewash that, or you want to pretend that was 100 years ago or 500 years ago. No. And so I think it does give us an awareness that a lot of people don't have, because they don't have that history, or it just seems like ancient history to them, where it doesn't seem like ancient history to us, because we're like, oh no, that was my parents lived through that, you know?
Yeah. I love the word you use. So many people are ahistorical, that they want to not invest any time. I want to keep that word and sit with that word. Before we close this conversation, I want to say I love that we were able to touch on this as much as talk about what your assignment means for love, for your personal life, but also this, if not know when and why now is so important. It's interesting what you say about family history and how we can feel so disconnected. Someone I talked to a few months ago, fascinating guy based in London, we had a conversation that touched on what happens when all the content that we read is stuff that we can literally let go of, because none of it has much sense of presence in time. It doesn't have necessarily that much depth. And so we're reading and consuming so much information, and yet we're not sharing some of the things that matter. And I feel like there's room to make space for more personal stories and community stories and all of that kind of things to happen.
Yeah. I agree.
Yay.
I agree. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd love to share? Something that we haven't covered, or any thought that you didn't close?
I mean, I think the last thing I'll just say on this topic of the world is to connect it back to where we started with possibilities, you know?
Yeah.
Because and this is something that I have to remind myself as much. At this point, I think I have very good emotional boundaries with the chaos of America. You know, we'll see. But I feel like but for a while there, it was...
Sure.
It was really, I was like, okay, I got to do some work, because I can't feel like this all the time. I can't feel like this all the time, because I know that the cost to myself and to my mission, if I'm in a place of everything is terrible and nothing matters. We need to move past that. But and talk about not being ahistorical. We need to remember what happened, but we also don't need to glorify the past, right? And we all know that all of these systems that govern the world and govern our lives, we all know that those systems were broken, or maybe not even broken, designed to benefit some people and not other people, right? So they're working actually as they were designed, perhaps some would say, at least some of them. Anyway, the point is that the upside of the collapse, and this is again why we need to step it up, because all those things that we did want to change, what do we want to change them into? What is the new world that we want to imagine? What do we want democracy to look like in a way that serves everyone? You know, what do we want to do to make sure that there's just not a handful of really rich, greedy people who are sucking up as many resources as they can and leaving the rest of the world with nothing, right? Like, what do we actually want? And so starting, even though we don't know exactly how we're going to get there, it starts with a vision, right? The very simple, probably cliched example of this is Thomas Edison and the light bulb. And I know other people are working on light bulbs, but the point is that he had to have a vision of somehow we can harness electricity and we can have a light bulb that you can turn it on and you can turn it off. And there was a time when people were like, you need to be committed to a mental institution And actually, some of his friends did commit him to a mental institution because it sounded so insane, right? And it took him
I did not know
many,
that. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. And it took him many years and many failed attempts before he was able to actually create the light bulb that he envisioned. And that's everything in the world. That's manifestation. Everything that we have in this physical world, somebody had to think of it before it existed. And that includes democracy, right?
Yeah.
That includes government, that includes systems, that includes everything. We need to start getting more focused on the vision and then working backwards to like, okay, how do we actually enact that vision? But we need to start thinking a lot bigger, and we need to not waste time because there's a lot of people who are suffering, and let's do what we can.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's a powerful place for us to land this conversation. Thank you so much for your time, Francesca, for this beautiful conversation. I'm so happy to have had some more time with you. I'm excited about your TEDx talk next week, your TED talk next week. I'd love to ask you, before we close this, is there any part of the conversation that surprised you, or is there one piece that you feel like our listeners should particularly pay attention to and perhaps take away into their lives?
Well, I really loved your question about what is the metaphor for your life and that journey. So I think everyone should think about that. They probably already are. But if you haven't already thought about that, I would definitely think about that. And I would just think about whatever part of your life where you feel you want to see the most change. Just to take some time to envision, okay, what's the best that could happen? What's the best case scenario, right? How do I want to feel? And really just start connecting to that vision. And, you can borrow my magic wand. Fantastic.
I love it.
And just start, even I think, look, we're just not going to be perfect here, right? We're never going to be perfect, but that's fine. Perfection is not required, thankfully. But how can we start to, whatever that looks like for you, start to connect more to the vision of what it is that you want to see in your life and in the world? That's it. I think that is really powerful. And the last thing I will say, because if you're doubting that that's powerful, just imagine the opposite. What would happen if every single person on this planet who felt depressed or overwhelmed or upset about anything going in the world just said, oh, well, it's just too much, I give up. And we all just laid down.
It's a powerful example.
Yeah.
That's a bit scary.
Right. So we can't. That's why we're not doing that.
No, we can't do that.
We can't do that.
Netflix and chill. No, I mean, just a little bit.
Yeah, have some Netflix and chill time, but also be like, okay, also what's my assignment here, Yeah.
Thank you so much, Francesca. I hope that everyone has appreciated this conversation as much as I have. There's much that I need to unpack for myself. I feel super inspired by everything that we touched on in your journey, and I love your way of thinking about how we can have an impact for ourselves and for the world at large. I will put all the links in the show notes for people to be able to find you. Can we watch you live next? By the time this airs, I think your talk will have already happened. But do you have any idea when we can watch it live after TED Next?
I don't know, because TED has their own,
time.
pace for when they release they have their own time. I don't know. I have a feeling it'll probably come out fairly soon, within the next month or so. So hopefully, we'll see.
Awesome. I'm so excited for you. I will try to see if I can register to watch it online. I'll see.
Thank you.
Francesca, thank you again, and have a beautiful rest of the day. And I'm looking forward to catching up again very soon.
Yes, thank you, Anne. So good.
Take care.
Bye.
Hey, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation on the Mettā Interview. If this resonated with you and you haven't subscribed yet, then please do so. You don't want to miss the brilliant minds I will continue to bring on to these conversations. The Mettā Interview is available wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you can also watch the full video conversations on YouTube. You'll find the link in the show notes. Also, I'd love to invite you to subscribe to my newsletter, The Mettā View. It's the cousin to the Mettā Interview. You'll find it at themettaview.com, and it's Mettā with 2 T's. In that newsletter, I regularly share written reflections and insights that complement these conversations. That's where I approach and work through life with a mindful lens. If you're intrigued as well about the masterclasses that my wonderful, brilliant friends and guests are offering through the Taunt, if you're excited and want to know about our events online and in person, about coaching and or working with me one-on-one, visit letrente.com, that's letrente.com, to discover more about our community and our offerings. Now, before I leave you, your engagement helps these conversations reach more people who may benefit from them. So please do me a huge favor. Share this episode with someone who may appreciate it. Leave us a rating, a review. You can even comment on each episode on Spotify, for example. So every little bit of support will help, and it's really lovely to hear from you and to find out what you think about what we're putting out in the world. Until next time, thanks for listening.